Welcome to Betting on Recovery, the Addict's Voice, where we dive deep into the journey of overcoming addiction. Join us as we share powerful stories, candid conversations, and expert insights that illuminate the path to recovery. Together, we'll explore the challenges, triumphs, and real-life experiences that shape our understanding of addiction and resilience. I'm your host, Blair Ball. Let's get started. I just want to introduce our next guest. Her name is Lori. Lori is an amazing friend of mine that I've gotten to know very well over the last 11 months or so. She has been in recovery for about a little over a year. She has a very unique story in that she has no support from her family, her friends, and most of her loved ones. She, as she would say, she's lost everything, more than just money. I love Lori. She has been in my corner since the first day I met her, and I'd like to think that I have been in her corner as well. She has a unique story and one that I can't wait to share with you all. And so here is Lori. Today we have Lori. She's been so awesome to have come and meet with us. The first time I met Lori was at a GA meeting, and I had only been in GA for a month or so.
Yeah, I think so.
And you were 3 months into it, about right. And the first time I met Lori, that was a rough day. That was a rough day for you, but what a great story you have. And so we'll get into that. So, Lori, what kind of transpired that threw you into a gambling addiction? So a lot of people that I've talked to have said, well, I don't think I'm a compulsive gambler. I gamble, and that's not a problem. I felt like that for a long time, and then I finally went into a severe addiction where I lost a lot of money in a short period of time. Is yours more like that, or is it more like somebody who's years and years and years just not had control over their gambling?
No, mine was, it started in 2016 when I was a caregiver for someone while running a couple businesses and family and a husband and taking care of everything. And at that time, I gambled periodically because I was so busy and it was round the clock. And I just said to myself, I need a break, and that's when it started in 2016. But I wouldn't go that often, just when I felt I needed a break. And then in 2020, when COVID hit, the loss of, friends and just, we always had a busy life, always around a lot of friends all the time. And I was very angry over COVID. And so
Just with the shutdowns?
Just sort of shutdowns and the hurt that it caused people and some of our customers, and the loss of so much, and it just really affected me badly, negatively. I was very angry. And then with the friendships that were lost and, people arguing and taking sides, and it just only...
So it's like the political side of
it. Right. It just had a profound effect on me, more than I realized. And then the isolation, although we worked every day, I missed our friends, and doing things. We were so busy. And then my husband was a runner. And so that became his first love, it seemed like, and I just felt very alone, and I was working a lot of hours, and I've always been a, hard worker. And I just, it kind of spiraled. And so I went for the social aspect of it because we weren't getting it from our friends. We weren't really doing anything socially anymore. And so I started going to casinos and just going there for the social aspect of it, talking to people. And I got to know a lot of people that worked there, and it became my friends. And it just went from there.
Did you feel like you were somebody different at the casino, where you could be somebody different and not be judged? Or because that was sometimes how I felt going to the casino, was I could kind of just almost play a role that of
nobody really knew me there. But I could almost even like say, oh yeah, I'm from out of town. I'm, whatever. Like it was kind of almost like a role play sometimes for me. That was kind of weird. But did you ever feel like that, or was it more just like, again, that decompression? Like I'm escaping the craziness of the real world. I'm here. I'm still Lori, but it's a place where I can kind of kick my feet up and relax.
Yes, it was. I mean, everyone knew everything about me. I shared. I was very open about my life, and but at that time, it was the only place that I could go where I could escape the reality of my life at that time, which was totally out of control. I was overwhelmed, to say the least, and to go there where I would escape. I had nothing on my mind. You just have that tunnel vision when you're focused on gambling or talking or whatever. All my problems went away. All the stress went away, and it was like I thought of nothing else. You just block everything out, which is like a drug, to numb the pain and the isolation that you felt and the distance. And at that time, it was the only place that I would go that someone would ask me how I was. Oh, you were doing? How I was doing. And I didn't really have that in my life at that time. And it felt good. It felt good to have someone ask me, how are you?
Yeah.
Not that I would tell them, it was more about them. But for me, and it just escalated from there. And I didn't realize, I knew it was bad. I didn't know how bad it was, but I knew I had a problem. But I couldn't stop.
Yeah.
And I didn't know why. I've always been a strong person. And
It's smart. I mean, like you said, like, yeah, you and your husband had owned a few businesses, and you ran a big portion of those businesses. And, did you do like much of the financial stuff as well too?
Yeah.
Right. So you're a CFO. You are very, statistically, financially literate, which is really weird because like my whole life I've been very good with money. I'm like, I'm not going to make bad choices with my money. And so then to fall into something like this, it was just like, how could that have happened?
Yeah, exactly. And I kept telling myself, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop. I'm going to put the money back and I'm going to stop. And I can do this. I can do, not realizing I had a disease at that time. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I just thought I'm just losing control and what is wrong with me? And I hated myself.
Yeah.
You leave that casino and you just feel like crap. And you're just like, I'm this horrible human being. And that turns into behaviors, because you're so angry with yourself and like, what is wrong with me? Always been the person that people, I would say, admired, but, looked up to and respected. And you go in this downward spiral and it just gets worse and worse and does not get better. We think it's going to get better, and
Did you ever have days where you had like bigger wins?
Oh, and I'm not a big wins.
Yeah. And you're like, okay, I'm back. I'm on a little bit of a roll. You leave the casino. I know in GA, we, after a big win, did you ever feel like you couldn't wait to get back? That's how I was. It was like, I can't wait I want to go back right this moment. When you were going to the casino, what was like what would you tell your husband or family?
So my kids, no one knew I went to the casino except my husband. And I'd always ask permission when I went to the casinos. And so I would just tell him it'd be after who's going to bed, and it was early. And I would say, do you mind if I go to the casino? Or sometimes towards the end in the last year, I'd go back to the office and work. And I would get so angry that he's home sleeping and I'm at the office working. And at that time, I was so overwhelmed with everything that was going on. And I would just sit there in the office and just stare into the computer, and I just couldn't concentrate. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go to the casino, because I just felt like, why am I working? Not that my husband didn't work as hard as I did, but I just was lost. That pull to the casino, I'll just win more money. And, and I did put a lot of it back, but as you know.
Yeah, when she's broken that, like, stuff that you would have never done, that it becomes so much easier to do. Like, well, I did it before and I was able to put it back, so let me just take a little bit more money and
right until it doesn't
yeah
work. You're just spending more than you realize. Like I don't know, as addicts, for me, I don't know how much I was spending. I knew it was substantial, but I didn't know. Exactly how much it was.
I didn't want to know. Like I was the same way. I knew that I had taken out loans and I had spent some 401k and I had some other stuff on the side. But I couldn't bring myself to like look at my financial statements to see exactly how far I'd gone.
Yeah.
But I knew it was bad.
And that's true. I could have certainly ran a report. If you know how much it was, I don't think I wanted to know, because I don't think I wanted to stop because I really felt I'm going to put that money back and my husband would never find out. And didn't happen.
Yeah, on our Friday night meeting, I shared a like a saying or a meme that I had seen and said, with gambling is the only addiction where we feel like the only way we can get out of it is if we do it more, right? Like an alcoholic is not like, I can drink myself out of this addiction, or somebody on meth, they don't think, well, if I just use a little bit more meth, I'll be able to get clean.
Right.
But for us, that's what it is. It's like, I just have to keep going. And then I finally like feel like I got to a point where I was like, I just have to accept it. The money's gone. And then I'd be on Facebook and I'd see some stupid video that's like, 99% of people quit gambling before they hit a big. And I was like, oh man, well, I better get back in there. So dumb. But so we're going through this, what kind of led to like the huge fall down the rock bottom? What was that?
So I had tried to tell my husband. We were so disconnected at that time, and I was afraid. I was afraid to tell my husband for fear of losing him, for fear of disappointing my family. So I was scared.
Yeah.
Looking back, I wish I had had the strength to do that, but I didn't. So my behaviors at that time, I wasn't in a good place. I was angry, and we get so angry with ourselves. And I was angry a lot, whether it be from COVID or just everything that was going on in my life in the addiction. My family did an intervention, and they sent me to a treatment at a mental health facility.
Yeah, so they didn't know the gambling stuff. So they saw, hey, mom's acting different.
Right.
Something's not right. He needs to go to a behavioral health center.
Because they thought it was a personality disorder or some type of mental health issue. As it turned out, I didn't have it, never a mental health issue. I've had a disease, but they didn't know what to do. So I don't blame them for that. They did what they thought was right. So I went to a treatment center for 46 days. And I realized first day in, when it was presented to me, how much money I'd spent. And I admitted I am a gambling addict. And
who did you admit it to?
the therapist.
Okay, but nobody in your family, right?
No one.
Did you have the thought before you went to treatment, like,
hey guys, the reason I've been acting so different is because I have this gambling problem, or were you still like not a gambling addict at that time, like before going in?
I was so distraught about being away from my family the way it happened. So all I could think about was my family, and I didn't want to be away from them. But when it happened, I wanted to go back to tell them the truth.
Yeah.
This is why I behave this way. This is what's going on. But that didn't happen. They chose not to speak with me about that. It was, no, you have a mental health disorder. You need to stay in this facility. And if I didn't stay, I'd lose my family. And so I made a decision that I have to stay. Although I did leave a couple times, but I ultimately went back, and they said just stay for 2 weeks and a month, and it was 2 months, and so it was 46 days. But I admitted immediately. It was like when you're found out, it was like the world was lifted off my shoulders in some odd way. Even though I knew I hurt my family, my husband especially, it was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, you didn't have to hide behind that mask, right?
Right.
That's the way, like, I really thought like I was going to get away with it. I was going to stop gambling. I'd make my last bet. And then my wife found an email, and then it was like, she had asked me, like, do you have, like, is this a problem, or is this, how bad is this? And it was at that time, like, I had to make that decision to just be like, let's start ripping this Band-Aid off, because I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Again, I was suicidal. my life was, at that time in my mind, I was thinking like I'm the worst dad. I can't believe what I've done. I'm the worst husband. Um, I'm such a mess and like so disgraceful, and the shame at that time. And so when I was finally like able to voice that to my wife, like, yeah, this is more than a problem. This has now become an addiction. And it was that, oh my gosh, I finally got that off my shoulders. And then like, the stuff comes, but I totally understand what you mean.
Unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity to talk to my family.
Right.
And still haven't. And it's been 13 months. So, they're angry and they haven't gotten over the anger. And I understand that. It's been difficult, not having support of your family. But at that time, they didn't know what to do. And but when I was in treatment, it wasn't for gambling addiction, unfortunately. So I had to stay the 46 days until they were ready to let me go.
Right.
And then when I was in there, I asked them, can I please go to a Gamblers Anonymous meeting? There's one in Los Angeles. And they let me go on my own. And it was great. It was 42 men in my first kudzi in LA. And I felt so comfortable. And my first thought when I walked in was, oh my God, there's so many people. Like,
I know.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. And
I always thought I was the only one that was this effed up.
yes.
And like stupid and, lost control. And then you see these other people and you find out like, oh, wow, this person's like me. They're successful. They own a business. This person, like I think we get this like thought in our mind that no, only like bad people with money struggle with a gambling addiction.
It doesn't discriminate. No, it's disease. It not discriminate. And it was, I loved the meeting. I loved every meeting. And I wasn't nervous walking in. I was very comfortable. I knew it's what I wanted to do. I knew it's what I needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I got back to the center, one of the women said, I was like walking on air. And it felt so good to be around people that understood and there's no judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, and I share, as you know, I share every meeting and I have since day one. And it was, it felt good. And I knew that's what I needed to do. And I knew when I left that facility, that's what I was going to do, is go to Gamblers Anonymous. And I've been going ever since.
Yes. So you did 46 days in treatment for a personality disorder that you didn't have. I want to make sure that like, I've known you now for almost a year. The first time I had met you, I've gotten to learn your story, this story that you're telling right now. And like the first time you had kind of mentioned, like I went to a mental health center for a personality disorder. Like I think maybe like in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, well, maybe she has a personality disorder, but I can tell you like, never have I seen, and again, as a nurse practitioner, I've never seen any change whatsoever in your, personality. Like I do not believe you have any personality disorder. So I just want to make sure that that's kind of clear. I think that it's kind of like you said, when we're in the thick of that addiction, I mean, I go back to that, the guilt that I have, and at the time shame of, this is not who I am, but I have zero control over this. I have lost complete control. The things that I was saying, out loud to God, like I'm so embarrassed of. Like if my kids were a fly on the wall, or anybody that I respect in life could have seen like me yelling in this, towards this guy at God, like they would definitely think like this guy has definitely mental illness. Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I mean, since I gotten, since the first time I met you, you've always been the exact same. So,
when I left the treatment center, and while I was in there too, I didn't know what was wrong with me. I didn't know why I had all the anger and why I was behaving the way I had. And there were other things in my life going on too that and I'm not going to give it an excuse, So when I left and I was on my own and alone, and so I listened to podcasts morning, noon, and night to learn about this disease, because I thought maybe I do have a mental health disorder. Maybe I do have personal. I didn't know, why was I behaving that way? I didn't understand it. So I had to educate myself, and I listened to morning, noon, and night podcast, and I listened to how the other side goes through this as well, and what they experience, the family. And as hard as that was to listen to, I needed to understand that as well.
Right.
And so, yes, I spent a lot of time educating myself. And then, of course, when I moved to Arizona and going to 7 meetings a week, and then going to therapy,
Right.
You learn so much more. And it took a while to realize this disease,
Right.
and understand the behaviors, and to know that I have a disease.
Right.
And it's still, I'm sad. I'm angry. I'm embarrassed. I wish I could take it back. I wish I could go back and change how I handle things, but when this disease takes a hold of you, and I know this now, you can't, there's nothing you can do. You can't stop. And it's, no matter how angry you are, no matter how embarrassed you are, no matter how, I thought I was the worst person on earth that could do this. I was the person that I hated. Like, why would I lie that much? I lied so much. And for me, that was the worst part, was the lying to my husband. And that, I don't, if I can ever forgive myself for that, because I hated liars.
Yeah.
And I became that person.
I am the same way. I hate it when people lie. And there I was, like, in the thick of a compulsive liar almost, but not like but just making up excuses of why I had to do something so I could get to the casino. Or my downfall was the online gambling. I could do it from anywhere, and no one had any clue. When I went to the casino, I had to be away from the house, right? So I had to come up with an excuse, because my wife would definitely not, like, if I ever did say, hey, I want to go to the casino, she did not really approve of that, right? She was like, nah, I don't think that's a good idea. So, but yeah, I understand. And talking with, other addicts, that's like the biggest thing is I was this liar, and that's not who I am. And like, that's like what you're saying, like so ashamed of my actions.
Right. And sometimes I would I'm looking back on it now, like pick a fight with my husband so I could go to the casino. And, it took me a while to realize, looking back on it and my behaviors and things I would do, and people would talk about it in meetings, and I would think, and I'd go, I did that too.
Yeah, that's one thing I love about GA or any recovery meeting is hearing other people's stories, and then like a light bulb kind of clicks and make, oh my gosh, that is so me. Like, that's what happened. And kind of going back to what you were saying, like, it's a disease. I think I feel fear sometimes, like, talking about it being like a disease, because I don't want somebody to say, you're just making an excuse for your behavior.
Yeah.
Right. And your story is very unique in that when you have gotten out of treatment for mental health and this personality disorder, your family finds out that you have this gambling problem, or you gamble X amount of money away, and then we'll get into this, they see it as mom's this awful person that spent all his money, and they don't see it as a disease. And so tell me what that's like, and if you need, I can go grab some tissues. Gosh dang it.
Oh, it's okay. So I tried at the beginning to, when I understood the disease, and I educated myself as much as I could at that time, I tried to tell them, I have a disease. Can you learn about this disease? And it wasn't so much to save my marriage, which, Bones were divorced, but it was to heal them.
Give them an understanding, right?
And for them too, mostly.
Yeah.
But my family is my everything. but they didn't want to learn about this disease, and it was very hurtful. You think, as a mom and wife and grandmother and a friend, you think that people would love you enough to want to learn about this disease, and you can't force them. You can't. You have no control over that, and it was just very hurtful to me. But again, they don't understand it,
Right.
and they're angry, and because of the damage I've caused, they can't get past that, and so I've kind of I've learned a lot of patience in this recovery, and understand that I can't control so many things in my life, as many people can't control so many things in their life, and I was kind of a control person. Very much so. I think a lot of
You have to be when you're a very successful business owner. You have a lot of control, and you feel like, I built something, and it's tough to relinquish some of that.
Yeah, I guess it's I haven't seen my family in over a year. My grandkids, my kids, my husband, they haven't spoken to me, and except my youngest son on occasion. But that for me is the most emotional. That's the hardest part. Quitting gambling for me was very easy, because I knew immediately that I surrendered, and I don't need this and I don't need this in my life anymore. But it was my family, just that for me has been the worst part of it, is not having a family. And my family was my everything to me. I mean, it was, and I didn't do this because I didn't love my family. And I think some people think that people, don't you love your family? How could you do this to them? And they don't understand. They understand this disease. We're good people who did a bad thing, but we didn't do it intentionally. We didn't set out, wake up one day and say, I'm going to ruin my whole life and my family's lives. It's this disease, and I when it grabs hold of you, you can't stop. But we understand that. I can't force my family to learn about this disease, and but yeah, I miss my family incredibly much. So I struggled with that. It's but I had no control over that. I just have to take it one day at a time.
Yeah. I know that, so since we've known each other, we have usually seen each other twice a week, once a week, and then, vacations and missing meetings occasionally, but I feel like, we have weekly contact, and I know that it is super hard for you to see other people at GA or in recovery tell this story of, I came out to my family about this, and they've helped me. They've given me this support, and again, I think that's why, like, the main thing I want to talk about is like how for you, your story again is just so unique. Yes, there are a lot of people that get into any addiction, drugs, alcohol, gambling, and it's like family disowns them. I want nothing to do with them. Before I fell into this, I feel like my perception of addicts was like, if they wanted to change, they'd change. Right. And now it's opened my eyes, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like, I want to help any person that I can with any form of addiction. I want them, first of all, to know that they're not alone and that they're loved, that if their loved ones could really, truly understand what is going on biologically, chemically in the brain, going through this addiction, like, they would have some compassion on the addict as well too. And so again, going back to like your story, I think you're so brave, and like, you're a hero to me. I admire you because again, you come every week, you come to GA, and for you're doing 7 meetings a week, a meeting every single day, And I'm sure it was so hard to listen to people say, my family's forgiven me. My husband or my wife has stood by me and helped me with this. And you're just, other than your GA family, you're kind of on your own. So I know this is going to be hard to get into, but tell me a little bit about like, how did that you got out of treatment, and then how did the thing come that was like, Mom, we're never talking to you again?
It was in conversation, and then some texts I received, when I reached out, or I get no response, when I reached out to them. And then at that time, I just thought, because everyone in GA to tell you, they need time. They need time. So
Yeah, I said trusted cable computer. It said that too. Often, just need time. You just need time.
yeah, but it's been 13 months, and they still want nothing to do with me. And it is hard listening to other people who are in less time than you in recovery, and they were saying they would throw it out of their house. Their spouse kicked them out, but now they're back home and they're working on it, and the other spouse is going to Gam-Anon or with their partner or whatever. And it took me a while when I was sitting in those meetings for a long time, it was very hard to hear that, because I would say, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
And I gave a lot to my family, and I would feel like I'd feel bad, like, what is wrong with me? And I thought, and at the time I felt, maybe I am this horrible person. Maybe I just don't deserve any support. But now I realize that that's not true. And my family's just different. They just, they're not bad people. I just don't think they don't know what to do. Or I talked about Gam-Anon, to my husband, and he didn't seem very interested. None of them seemed interested in that, and maybe they need more time. I don't know. But yeah, it was very difficult hearing people with less time than me. Now I'm very happy for them. I'm supportive of them now, and it took me a long time, and I saw my hard days, especially with the holidays coming up. It's very difficult. Because I was always present for my family.
Yeah.
My gambling was in the middle of the night till the wee hours of the morning. And I was always there for every event. And so, yeah, you start thinking, like, what did I do I know I did a bad thing, and I know I disappointed all of them, and I know they're angry. But it's been 13 months. I just thought, okay, I waited. And so people don't say that to me anymore. They just need time,
Yeah. I mean, I've sat across the table from you, like during a share, and seen you break down, and you've had those shares of, I'm angry at God, I'll get over this, but today I'm really feeling it, and being upset, and like, there's times where I just want to, like, and I've told you this, like, I'm driving to California and I'm tracking down your family, and I'm going to go toe to toe with them, so that, because they need to know what the F is really going on with Mom, right? I think, like, if Lori was my mom, like, what's wrong with these people that they aren't, like, giving her this time of day to talk about this? And so again, I still think, it's very, you're an anomaly in this, and I have to have faith and hope in God that, like, it's for a reason. And that sucks. That sucks that you're going through this. But I have to stay hopeful that one day you're going to have this realization of, this is why I had to do it, whatever that reason may be, right? When I was in the thick of it, I hated my life. I hated myself. I wanted to die. I was so angry at God. And now, looking back, it's like, I couldn't imagine my life not going through that. It's changed who I am as a person, like, in the best way that I could have ever imagined, that I had this new outlook on life. And that's not to say, like, that those months were horribly, like, sad and awful. And again, the stress and crap that I put on my family at that time, like, that sucks. But, like, I'm so grateful that I went through it to be to where I'm at now. And so I don't know what your story is going to be like in 12 months, in 6 months, but I have to have hope that regardless of what happens, because, I can't sit here and say like, they're going to come to eventually. They just need time, whatever that looks like, as far as, maybe we'll still talk to mom, but we don't want to talk about her gambling, whatever it might be. Something has to come from this, that I just have a belief in God that, one, he loves you and he cares about you, and he's not going to give you more than you can handle. And shit, you have been handling a lot the last year. And again, I feel like there's going to be a time where we have a conversation and you're like, Blair, yeah, I got it. I know exactly why I had to do this.
Yeah. I think for me too, the hard part for me is because I'm not a judgmental person, and I have a lot of empathy for people. And so for me, and talking to my therapist, it's why it's so hard for me to accept that my family abandoned me, is because if my spouse, child, friend had a problem, I would try to understand it and be there for them to help them. And so it's kind of as though it was hard for me to understand why they would do this, because I would never do that to someone I loved. I'd want to understand it. I get being angry, but learning about it and try to help them. And that didn't happen for me. And you're right. I was very angry with God because I even said in the meeting, like, and one says, God, it's God's plan. And then I think, why would God want to cause me so much pain? And then I realized, maybe God's plan is for me to help other people. Maybe I'm going through this so I can help other people going through similar. No one has my story. You're right. But maybe that's God's plan, that I am to help others, which I love doing. I'm doing a lot in NGA, volunteering and running a meeting. And I give back, as much as I can, where I can, wherever I can, to whomever I can. That's always been my passion. So I think that really plays on my heart, that my family wasn't there and isn't there for me.
I agree. Just like having empathy like you do now, it is so hard to look at your loved ones and say, like, it's not that hard to show somebody empathy. Just show me a little bit of empathy and I can help you understand the stuff that happened and the mess that went on. But like, it's like they're closed off completely. No, we don't want to look at this like mom has a disease. We don't want to look at this like, whatever it is. And so again, that's why I've said, like, I'm going to drive to California and I'm going to like tell them, look, you have to know what is going on in your life, because the Lori that I know, I just cannot imagine, with how much you say always about how much you love your kids and how much they mean to you, that your kids would not want you in their life over anything, right? Over any amount of lost money, over a relationship, with you and your husband going through divorce. Like, you're still my mom. I need you in my life. Like, I just want them to know that you are an amazing person. And yeah, what happened. You lost control. You didn't do it on purpose. You were not trying to cause any harm in this. You have said, and I've heard lots of other people say, like, if I had cancer, or if I had another illness that, whatever that could be, my family's going to get behind me and help me fight this. And that's just not what's happened.
But I have to accept it and and I've done a lot of acceptance and patience, which I never had patience before. This recovery has taught me a lot of patience and understanding too. If that's just my feel is different. I still love them. I'm not angry. It's just their way of coping, and I'm sure they have their reasons. And there's nothing I can't control it. I've my friends too. I mean, I lost I always say I'd lost. Sometimes the topic will be, what have you lost? And it's like, it's not just what I've lost. And I'm like, I've lost everything. My children, my grandchildren, my friends, my marriage, so much more because of what I did and this disease. I just hope people, anyone going through this, have the courage to stay in recovery and do this. And meetings make it. I know I say that all the time, but meetings are wonderful. I mean, it's the only place you can go in and have no judgment and just have people that get it, they understand. And, I'm very open in my shares. I mean, I don't hold, back. I share everything. And I tell everybody I meet that I am a compulsive gambler. And it's not something I'm proud of. It's just something that I am recovering, though. But yeah, it's difficult,
Yeah, I think be on social media and trying to go out and look for different groups and for people to help. I see a lot of people that will post anonymously in groups, and to me, I feel like I don't want to post it anonymously. Like, this is a part of my life. It's played a big role in who I am. And I'm kind of like you. I don't love it, but it's a part of me, and it's a great, conversation starter of breaking ice. I think people are so afraid to admit their weaknesses. And, sometimes with patients, I'll be like, I've gone through some hard times. I have a compulsive gambling disorder. And a lot of times they're just like, what? Are you serious? Like, how could that happen?
Yeah.
It's like, it just did, but it doesn't matter. It's not who I am today.
Right. Just define us.
Yeah.
I tell people, everyone that I meet, strangers, at a restaurant, I just tell people that I'm a compulsive gambler. And I do that because you never know who is listening or who you could help. And if I can help one person, I mean, that's amazing to me. And so, that's why I'm very open about that. It's not something I'm ashamed of. And, just, you never know who you're going to help, who's going to overhear you. And there have been some people that have called me.
Yeah.
So that's my joy.
Yeah.
I know.
It's interesting to have those experiences where you say something and you get a response from somebody a week or two later, like on a text or a Facebook notification. It's like, hey, I just want you to know what you're doing or what you said really made a difference because I can relate, whatever that might be. And I think, that's what I love about addiction, is that we're all at risk for it, just based on being human and not being perfect. And so many of us are battling an addiction that we don't even realize that it's an addiction. And that was me for a while. Like, now I've got control over this, or I know it's getting a little bit out of hand. And if I could have had somebody there that could have just like pulled me aside and like, hey, you're making a mistake. Like, or I want you to know it's okay to be truthful and be who you truly are. And who you are, Blair, is you have a compulsive gambling addiction. Like somebody had mentioned in a meeting last week, like, I just wish somebody would have told me I had a compulsive gambling addiction so I could have started recovery sooner. I didn't realize I had that, right? And it's almost like, if you come see me at my office, we do a physical, we do blood work, and I see, oh my gosh, Lori, you've got diabetes. Well, let's change your eating habits, If there was only something like that, where like when you would go get your year B physical, they could be like, oh my gosh, Blair, you're a compulsive gambler.
Right.
We need to get control of this before it gets out of hand, So, but one of the big reasons I wanted to have you on the podcast is to, again, your story's so unique, to show people that that might be going to meetings or might be struggling, like, I don't have that support, so why should I keep going, right? And then also for, my family and other people that don't have addiction have heard stories from the podcast, and it's like, man, it's really helped open my eyes up a little bit to really what a gambling or any addiction is like. And so that's kind of the other aspect of that. I want family members of those people who are struggling with addiction to see your story, and I hope and pray that it might strike a match under them to be like, I need to reach out and move past whatever it is because this person is struggling.
Yeah. And even though I don't have support and I haven't had support, I never wavered in my recovery. You know, I still go to my meetings. You know, I never stopped. I mean, I have a lot of lonely days, and
You have bad days.
I have a lot of bad days, and I'm profoundly sad. But I have a lot of gratitude now too, and I have to remember my gratitude daily to keep going. But even though, and I believe everyone deserves a second chance. Some of us don't get that. Yeah, but it's never stopped me for my journey, my recovery. I never wavered on that, whether I had support or not. In my case, I don't. But that had to be okay. I just knew I'm doing this for me, and I need to get.
Yeah, that's the other part, right? Like outside of GA, your support is zero. It would be very easy for you or any addict to say, yeah, I'm not gonna get my family back. I'm not gonna get X back. So why even go through with it? Like it's too hard, because it is hard. Being in recovery is hard. You know, being conscious about those triggers and the addiction, it's tough. But then to not, in my case, I can fall back on, well, I can't do that because I don't want to disappoint my kids. I don't want to disappoint my wife, but I really don't want to disappoint myself. I'm doing it for myself. But for you, it's like, no, you're doing this for yourself. And that's the other thing. I want your family and other family members of addicts out there, like, you're putting forth the work. You're doing the work. If you didn't truly want recovery, you wouldn't be doing it, because it is so hard. It is so hard. I can't tell you how many times I'd left a meeting and just thought, like, damn it, I need Lori to have some support. I need her to get through this. And like, you know, I pray for you often that your family will one day be able to get past whatever it is and just remember that who you truly are. Also, I'm not happy that you've lost all that, but I am happy that I've gotten to know you, because you are a blessing in my life. Again, of somebody who's resilient, who is okay with having bad days. Because I think some people think, you know, being in recovery, you shouldn't have any more bad days. And I would say, like, you're a testimony that, there's still lots of bad days, but you just have to keep fighting and keep putting one foot in front of the other. Don't give up. Yeah. What would you say has been the best part of recovery?
The meetings. And it was like family to me, because it's all I have. The best part of recovery is I'm not gambling anymore, really, and just the meetings, going to meetings, which I thoroughly enjoy going to meetings. So the lot I don't like about recovery, my losses, you know, the family and stuff, but just not gambling anymore and not feeling the need to gamble and having no urges to gamble, which is really freeing for me. And you're right, I could have given up, and some people will say that to me, like, because who would know?
Yeah.
I have nothing to lose, nothing more to lose, but I would know.
Yeah. I mean, you'd have your GA family, and even then, like that's what I love about GA or other 12-step programs. Like, if you were to relapse and come back, it's like, we understand, right? Like, we know that what this disease is like. And especially with gambling, like, we're the only people that really truly understand what goes through somebody else's mind. You know, we talked about Alchemist with Doug, and, you know, seeing some of the guys and gals that leave and then like immediately fall back into an addiction. It's like, yeah, they just went through recovery for 5 weeks, and like, how could they go back and gamble right away? And it's like, because you just don't understand how messed up our brains are. Like, we don't want that.
Right.
You don't want that. And that's why, when somebody comes back to GA who's been out for a while and, has relapsed, like, those meetings are some of my favorite meetings, because it kind of drives that point into me, like, I don't want to relapse. Like, I don't want to go back to that. Like, you can see it. The shame of
With some of your despair,
yeah.
the hurt, you just cry with them. You just feel bad, but we don't judge them. We welcome it back. I think it takes a lot of courage for someone to come back in after going out.
Heck yeah. So that's the other thing, if you're watching this, I mean, you're and you've relapsed and you're afraid to go back, like, come back. You have to come back. Like, meetings make it. Without having GA in my life, I don't know, like to say I'd still be gambling free, but I sure know that it's so much easier, like, being able to go to meetings every week. And again, feel of that, like, it's just nice to get into a room with some other people that understand exactly what they get it, that they are going through and how our brains work. And you could say, like, yeah, I spend $50,000 in a day and I had no idea. And most people would be like, you're sick. You're insane. How could you do that? And
Fellow gamblers.
Yeah.
I get it.
yeah, and fellow gamblers were like, now that could be $500 for somebody as well too, right? And it doesn't matter the amount, but yeah, I think I'm so grateful that we get to go back to meetings each week. And again, when you have a rough day and a rough week and you share, like, I can feel it, and I just want you to know that, and I know that in that meeting you're loved by all of us. And as of right now, you've lost some family, but you've gained so many people in your life that care about you.
Yeah, they do.
And that's like, true love and care, that no matter what happens, like, we always are going to have your back, right?
What I want to say, like, people that go to meetups, people are scared to go into me. I wasn't. I wasn't nervous about going to a meeting, but I'd go to the beginner meeting, and I went for many months, and I go there for, like, the new people. And I've had several people say, I'm so nervous, to share. And I said, you don't have to share. But I will tell you, these are the only rooms that you can walk into that there's no judgment. And believe me, when you're sharing your story, if you look around the room, a lot of people shaking their heads because we've been there, we've done that, or something similar, or your story is not unique.
Right.
And we get it. It's not, because people walk in to say to me, I feel like I'm the worst gambler, the worst person in the world. And they hear the other stories, and not that we compare ourselves to each other,
But we've
but
all
we'll
walked
get it. Yeah.
Our first meetings, we felt that exact same way. I'm the worst person I know.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just, I like that, how you just said that, like, there's nowhere else where you can go be 100% honest, right? And have that space to share and almost like decompress and get the crap off the shoulders. Some of our meetings, some people just share, like, this is what I've got going on this week. And for a while, I thought we were supposed to talk about her gambling addictions and problems. And it is, people who have been in recovery for 15, 20 years, like, they might not be having those addictions, but their share is just as important as mine or yours, or somebody that's in recovery for 5 years, or that brand new person that's, like, who needs it, right? They need that, those arms wrapped around them. But I think Yeah, meetings make it.
Yeah, like when you ask me what I get out of this recovery, the best thing, the other thing too is when I go to meetings, sometimes I'll be having I have a lot of bad days, just my emotions, and what I've lost. But I go to that meeting, I've never walked out of a meeting where I felt worse than when I walked in, because there be some days I cry all the way to a meeting because I'm just really in despair and I'm sad. And then you get to share that, at least for me, I share everything on my heart.
Yeah, you do.
And I'm very open, and
And I want you to change it. I love your shares. Love your shares.
and it just feels good to have that. You just kind of get it out, because I don't have a support system. So I have my therapy once a week, but it's just nice in those rooms, and I'm comfortable because people do care about everyone.
Yeah.
They care about your story. They care about your emotions, your feelings, your whatever you share. You can feel the love in those rooms, and the people truly care about each other. And I don't know anywhere else in the world you can go and get that feeling.
Like, really, honestly, where else can you go and get that 100% non-judgmental, I am here for you? Like, even at church, you can't always get that, right? You'd like to think that that's be the one place you could go.
Right.
But I mean, I know for myself, like at church, I don't feel like I can always be 100% authentic, because I'm worried about what other people will think. And that's the one place like that I truly can say, I don't care what people think. Right. And so, kind of to wrap this up, what would your advice be to somebody struggling with any addiction, that's hit their rock bottom, but is like, I am lost? Or also to somebody who possibly has an understanding, like, yeah, this is a problem, but I'm ashamed to ask for help. Like, what would be your words to them?
Call me.
Right?
Really. Oh, that there's no shame in admitting you have a problem, any addiction, any disease, anything you're struggling with. Is just reach out. There's so much out there. There's so many resources that are there to help you. And if it's an addiction, there's, AA, there's GA, there's NA, and those meetings are important. Those people are wonderful people. And just make a call. Just reach out to someone. And like I said, I want to, like you, giving back. That's what I hope to do. And but just make a call. Just reach out to someone and just hope that they do that there's no shame in it. When we're all human, nobody's perfect. We all have our problems. We all have our issues. Nobody's perfect. And we're God's children, and we deserve to be helped, and we deserve empathy and understanding, and just have the courage to make that call.
Yeah. I think too, as well, like, just remember, like, no one is perfect in life. And regardless of what you think other people are like in their life, and they might be living this perfect life or appear to be living this perfect life, like, that's just not reality. Reality is that we all struggle. Maybe not all of us to certain extents of becoming into becoming addicts, but there is a community out there that is willing to love you, unconditionally, and be there for you. And it's worth it. Yes, it's so worth it. Living in my darkest days at rock bottom, like, I look back now, and where I'm at now, like, it was worth it to go through that. I wouldn't want to go through it again, right? But whatever God's plan is,
Right.
but it's so worth it to get that weight off your shoulders. And I think going back to what we talked about, like, admitting it and vocalizing that to another human being, that's huge to be able to like make that first step.
Yes, I do.
And it's okay, and to be vulnerable, and to just know, like, again, you're somebody that as of right now, you've lost everything, but you have gained a lot, and you are in such a better position in life right now than you were 12 months ago, right? So it's worth it. And we just keep hoping that this will get better.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So, well, God bless you for doing this, Geyer. You're right. I'm blessed to know you. Call your friend.
I love you. I'm so grateful that I've gotten to know you, and again, like, I truly want you to know that when you have those days where you feel so small, and that God doesn't care about you, because what you're wanting right now is not happening. Right? I want to be with my family. I want them to understand that if God loved me, why wouldn't He let that happen? He loves you, right? And I love you, and we just have to continue hoping for the best, and going back to the serenity prayer of controlling those things that we have control over. And if we don't have control over it,
That's my daily mantra.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Betting on Recovery. We are so grateful for all of our listeners, and we hope you all find peace in this journey and know that you are loved and that you are enough.